Hello everyone, this is Varun Agarwal, Senior Associate Editor for ETCIO, and I welcome you all for another web panel discussion organized by ETCIO in partnership with IBM. Today's topic of discussion is Amplify Business Resilience with Automation and AI. Enterprises are progressively embracing AI and automation to reinvent their business models and explore new growth opportunities. Forward-looking enterprises utilize automation and AI to augment core strengths, supplement weaknesses, and empower their people to focus on what's important. So in today's session, industry experts will shed some light on how you can use emerging technologies to rapidly improve your productivity while ensuring a resilient business. But before we begin our panel discussion, I would like to invite Ann Thai, who's the Business Unit Executive, Digital Business Automation at IBM Asia Pacific, to set the context. Welcome, Thai.
Thank you, Varun. I hope you guys can hear me. And indeed, a privilege and an honor to be with you today. And I'm happy to share with you 10 minutes on this topic, amplifying your business resilience with automation and AI. Think back 6 months ago. How and what are your company doing then? And look at where we are today. So things have changed. We have now what we call a new normal. We have a changing and constantly changing business environment. But guess what? We are accelerating a lot of new automation technology adoption. According to HFS research, after COVID in April 2020, you can see that besides cybersecurity, automation becomes the number 2 drivers. And they say this, it took a pandemic to create a burning platform for automation. And this is particularly relevant today for our discussion. Sometime in July, another article written again by HFS, and they kind of say that, hey, IBM has just changed the automation game. Hello, extreme automation. So how can we help, and how have we helped our existing customer, new prospect, from the approach, from the scope, from the process technology, from the hybrid workforce that you now become more familiar with, and achieving what we call hyper automation outcome. Sometimes we call this extreme automation. We're going to walk you through very quickly how you can redesign processes without extremely long processes that you have done in the past in terms of coding, change the way you look at your businesses, have new AI capability and machine learning coming into your workplace using digital labor along with other digital automation technologies to help you achieve hyper automation. For 30 years, my team, IBM, we have been helping our customers automate their scanning operation. We call this digitization, their content storage, where they share, archive, redact private detail, share across enterprise or cross enterprise, where we route electronic papers through a workflow, bringing electronic content for approval and maker. And today, we now help them to apply AI and machine learning to understand how we can make use of this technology better, give you insights, and increasingly use what we call digital robots together with digital capabilities to further automate. So this is the journey of hyper automation that we have seen, especially over the last 2 years. End to end, no matter where you are in your workplace, you have some automation in place because of your packages, systems, and what we call integration in place. But imagine adding end-to-end capabilities like, for example, content management, decision making, process management, insights, and digital capability empowered by robots that you can trigger by the human. This will bring end-to-end automation very quickly and add another level of productivity gain, reducing the error and giving you tracking visibility and KPI management. That's how we can bring modern enterprise ever improving with faster cycle time as well as deeper automation. And this is where we are empowering a lot of our customers today. Imagine human working side by side with digital worker, leveraging on a set of business capability that you can build, reuse as a platform, from content, from decision, from capture, from robots, and last but not least, every of your past experience today, all kept into a data lake that creates what we call the automation insight and the output of the data lake forms the input into a closed loop fashion to further improve your decision, your capture, your content, and your workflow and robotic action. We call this the digital label, where human, people like us, normal people, empowered with these digital capabilities, will be able to run faster than the super athlete before in the past, and keep the organization more productive, and keep the country more competitive. This is a combination of RPA technology, which is the hands that allows you to cut, copy, paste data very quickly, the workflow, which is like your central nervous system, helping you to connect paper document systems together, the ability for you to talk to machine or have robots that execute on your verbal instructions and giving you answers back with our text to speech, speech to text, and voice response system. That is the chatbot capability. A pair of bionic eyes that can scan paper and turn it into digital text before you store it securely into your content repository, and making use of known rules called decision making, as well as what we call prescriptive and analytical rules with using AI called Watson, and combine that for decision making. So all these combined give you a level of sophistication and productivity never ever before. Our latest acquisition with RPA called WDG Automation. This is the most advanced RPA in the market. You can see that capabilities not commonly found, like natural language processing, AI engine, speech generator, captcha resolution, chatbot. These are not the usual suspect that you will find in any RPA solution. We have it today as part of our end-to-end capability. Imagine robots helping you key in data into your ERP system, down to your salesforce.com, which is a mobile ready or a web interface ready or Citrix style of environment, down to your very green screen or gray screen terminal where you typically don't have the ability to do integration. Robot starts the keying in and retrieval of data without integration very quickly, and you can build such capability in a very short time at very low cost. Look at using AI to make sure that the work that you do today can be more superior than the human work that you typically do yesterday, where past experience through machine learning from natural language processing all can be combined. When you try to interview someone, you try to hire someone, and you want to understand the personality of this person from the way he writes his resume or from his Twitter feed or LinkedIn profile, etc., etc. And this helps you to recruit the right people with shorter time, just as an illustration of how automation combined with NLP, machine learning, and RPA can be combined. Today, if you are looking at developing and delivering this type of outcome very quickly, besides core automation that I have spoken before, the need for AI and machine learning to leapfrog against your competition becomes even more critical. Combined with RPA, such that you can even now have the analytical outcome coming from your process, your case, your decision, and content, all infused end to end. And we are talking about end-to-end capability today, not just a single outcome. Imagine today when you are looking at selling something to your customer, how do you know that a price change will result in a customer wanting to buy? It will not be the tipping point that they will not buy, they will not churn. And how much do you know that should be the right selling price of this customer? Rules alone cannot do the work. Analytical behavior combined with AI and machine learning provide you a more deterministic outcome. And today you can operationalize all this together with our data lake. We call it business automation insight, with our AI engine, with our decision capability end to end. So what do we see as an outcome to drive strategic and long-term businesses? We call this the new normal rather than we call this the next normal rather than the new normal. With all this capability coming in together, you will be able to grow your revenue exponentially, increase your profitability, and more important, impact on the customer experience without increasing cost, increasing effort, or increasing labor, right? So this is the outcome you can achieve. We know that achieving this outcome is not easy. So my speakers down the road, you will hear more on how they can help you overcome some of these challenges. A lot of time you require good executive sponsorship. You need to align internal strategy and communicate your execution plan. You need to have not only IT people, but business analysts and maybe a center of excellence to be set up in a very short time, and trust that this technology will help you achieve great outcome with ever increasing capability. Just to give you one last example, at the height of the COVID situation, a lot of my customers are impacted. many of them can't even come to work and they have to be working at home. This is a customer based in China with 50,000 employees. Imagine 1,000 to 2,000 requests every day coming in for help desk, hot ticket, and what we call AI ops type of operation. Using RPA alone does not help them totally. They need a chatbot that they can talk to give them help, and these are automating without too much of a human and people having to be in the office. So you keep your employees safe, at the same time manage to overcome all this with what we call business resilience through the use of automation and AI technology. Last but not least, we believe that automation will continue to be a strategic priority for our clients, and we in IBM are happy to lead in this industry. We have built unique capabilities to help our clients automate at scale with a set of capabilities including business model, discovery accelerator, service essentials, market-leading cloud pack for automation, use of intelligent workflow, RPA, and digital worker. And last but not least, of course, our partner ecosystem. You're going to hear a lot more from Shohit, how our customers thank the work that our partners do in times like COVID to keep a major refinery running and send us a letter of appreciation as well. So with that, this is my last slide. I won't go into this. This is our credential from IBM in terms of our leadership in automation and AI. I will now pass over 10 minutes sharp to the Varun to do the Q&A and the panelist session.
Thank you so much, Kai. With that, we'll begin our panel discussion. Panel today, we have an interesting set of speakers. Let me introduce you to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Amit Saxena, who's the Global Deputy CTO for State Bank of India. Our second speaker of the day is Ranjan Sharma, who's the CIO at Bestseller. Welcome, Ranjan. The next speaker is Manoj Nayak, who's the VP and Chief Information Security Officer at SBI Life Insurance. And last but not the least, we also have Divya Rajgopal, who is the Associate Director at IBM India and South Asia. Welcome, Divya. So without further ado, let me begin the session by asking a question to Amit. Amit, we've had an interesting presentation from Anthai, who talked about the use of RPA, use of chatbots, etc. But and especially when we look at the Indian banking scenario, pretty much every bank is using chatbots to improve customer interactions. But instead of improving customer interactions, we've often seen that it leads to customer dissatisfaction and a very disjointed kind of a response from the bank. So how are you trying to really fix it at SBI?
Okay, thank you very much, Varun, for the question itself. And so a couple of years earlier, and to be precise, around 2016, most of the organizations were rolling out chatbots and to help customers. So we have got not one, two of them, we have got a couple of them. Chatbots available wherein you can find what is the interest rate and what are the new offerings from the bank. So different organizations have put in chatbots for a different reason. And you are right from that aspect. Most of the people, so the first chatbot I believe was put in by Domino's for people to order the pizzas itself, right? So I don't think so anybody have ordered a pizza using a chatbot. Having said that, what we understand is that people have got aspirations itself, right? And they want those answers to be given by the bank or somebody in the bank at a very fast pace itself. And certainly that was not being done properly by the chatbots. I won't say. So the initial thing was the chatbots would be able to, whatever the algorithms have been put into them, they would be able to answer. Otherwise, they would say, okay, I didn't understand your question. Do you want me to transfer this to a contact center? We have moved away from that. So nowadays, it's a robotic process automation, which is working with the machine learning. And we have got a small initiative, what we have done for in-house for something which is related to legal entities itself and the legal answers, what needs to be fetched for some of the cases which are already there. And we have got quite a number of them, right? So to find out an answer for what was the decision made on such and such case. So that was internal kind of a check. RPA, what we have implemented. And what we are looking at, the best use of RPA, and IBM is our partner in our full digital banking what we have built in, which is called YONO, right? So over there we have got a lot of robotic process automation what we have put in with the there are a lot of tools which have been provided by IBM, and we are using a new technology stack what we have built in. It's a full new technology stack. We have got around how many? Most of the people are not aware that SBI have got 39 mobile apps, right, which cater to different customers. Because you are a retail customer, you would always think that there's only one mobile app, right? But with SBI serves different set of customers. The customers are different, so their needs are different. So they have got a kind of a different application. And on YONO platform, what we have done, we have used a lot of robotic process automation, wherein we are trying to, and the future is like what we are trying to build in that whenever there's kind of a cyclone or something which is happening on the eastern part of the country, then that robotic process automation would be able to put in a notification for that set of people, right? The people who are living in that part of the country. And it's being driven by the Watson engine itself, which we are already using. And there's a lot of stuff, and I believe we are not using it to the full extent, right? The capability is very big, very huge, which can be provided by those engines. But I believe it's a learning cycle for everybody, and banks would start using a lot of robot RPAs in coming days. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. It's great to hear you're using it in different aspects. And honestly, I wasn't even aware SBI actually had those many apps. So that's good to know. Ranjan, in your industry, automation is pretty extensively used. And given the whole COVID scenario, the usage has also increased to an extent. So when it comes to using automation, where do you see automation being used other than the real mundane and simple tasks?
So I think Varun, very important to understand that there were certain use cases which are already readily available in areas of finance, HR, supply chain. But when we started our journey, we said we would not want to start with the standard use cases or the standard areas where this is very readily available. We said, why can't we actually look into areas which are slightly complex and could give bigger business values? So we said in retail, merchandising is a very complex art and a science both. So we said, how could we bring these two together? And when we started getting into the journey, yes, it was a long journey. Initially, we thought it was a wrong decision to get into that because it was a tough area to actually pick up. It was highly complex given a fast fashion player that we were. Algorithms, the data availability, because a lot of information was still available in the merchandiser's mind. It was not there on the system. How could you bring all of that, and how could you digitize that entire journey, which would help them in terms of merchandising? The first biggest challenge before even we started the automation journey was changing the mindset and saying, hey guys, this is not going to take your job. This is only going to complement your job. This is only going to help you do your job better. That was the biggest fear when we started about 2.5, 3 years back. Because a lot of people were hearing about a lot of information about automation and how it was taking away jobs most likely, because there were a lot of rumors around it. So one was that, then getting them to participate in this entire journey and saying, how could we help them deliver the job better and faster? How could we use their idle time or the time where they were not at all productive? How could we get a bot to complement and do the job when they were not in office? Because they could only be in office about 8 hours, 9 hours, not more than that. What beyond that? They can't be always available physically. And there were a lot of things that was supposed to be done on multiple systems. So that's the way how we started this journey. But I think it's been a very good journey, barring those initial hiccups that we had. Yes, there will be challenges. I agree with Amit, because automation journey is not a very easy journey. You need to you need to pursue this consistently. One, two, it has to have a large stake from the senior stakeholders of the organization, because it has to have a push from the senior stakeholders. Otherwise, adoption is always going to be a challenge. But thankfully, that has worked for us, and it's been doing wonders for us, because we've been rolling it out across multiple channels. And just in COVID itself, I can assure you that there are a lot more areas that we've actually evaluated, and we've seen that there's so much that we can actually do just by bringing in the digital workforce, the automation with a few more other technologies, bringing them together, bringing in analytics together, and how could we help people make decision making much more better as well.
I think that's an important aspect, and many companies are gradually trying to realize that it's actually not taking away jobs and complementing, like you said. In fact, I've seen some banks, some global banks based in Bangalore, actually have created a separate desk for the bots, and people actually call them as colleagues, and they've given them names also to make sure that they feel like they're actually working with a human. So it's actually complementing rather than threatening their job, as you rightly said. So certain challenges when it comes to automation and using AI, we come to an aspect of security. Manoj, we were having a discussion around how automation can also create security issues. So can you talk about some security recommendations from you on how best to use automation in AI?
Yeah, Varun. So, in fact, when this automation has started and the uses of artificial intelligence and machine learning has increased, and it is being adopted by all the industries, including the BFSI sector and other industries also. So then people also thought about the security and how it can impact the business in terms of the cyber security. So we have seen the trends of cyber security incidents that has been increasing worldwide, and automation is also cannot be left out from the eyes of the hackers. So the most important thing is what are the business processes that has been automated using the robotic process automation or other technologies, and what is the risk to those business processes. So before starting the journey in any organizations, generally we do a risk profiling of those business processes with respect to the robotic process automation and the artificial intelligence and other technologies. So in the risk profiling, then we also identify the criticality of those business processes which are integrating with the automation. And based on the criticality, then we identify a risk assessment framework, or we do what are the risk assessment that need to be carried out while integrating the automation into the business processes. So like simple things of the change of password, which is being done frequently or periodically in some of the processes, and when those processes become automated, whether bots has the capability to change the password periodically or whether there is a manual intervention is required. So the business process owners and the IT owners also has to take care of those aspects. And another aspect, when suppose the automation does not work, then what is the business continuity that is available with the organizations. So all these parts comes under a risk profiling. And also whatever the things or whatever the ideas that we implement and we try to bring more efficiency into the business processes, you always also follow a secure by design and privacy by design. So lots of in the BFSI sector, lots of customer data is involved. So in these automation areas and in the business process areas, so also we include the privacy by design aspects and looking at the privacy regulations in India and also upcoming regulations. So these are the most important parameters where we should do the privacy by design, security by design, risk profiling, and risk assessment while considering the automations.
Absolutely. I think you covered a very important aspect there. Divya, coming to you, we've talked about different types of automation, and as we move towards cognitive or hyper automation, what kind of new features or what new things can we expect from automation going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the entire journey of automation, right, it starts from automating tasks, which is RPA, to now we are moving to workflows and content management that we need to automate. And then finally infusing artificial intelligence into this entire process so that you have an end-to-end process that you are automating rather than automating single tasks. So currently what we are working on with many of our clients is actually reimagining the entire workflow rather than just looking at RPA in silos, AI in silos, and workflows and BPM in silos. So we actually get an entire reimagined process, which is able to give you much better benefits, and also not just in terms of efficiencies and productivity, but also about taking you on a growth path, increasing your revenues, right, and increasing the gross profit that your organization is looking for. So all of these technologies, which we call enablers, along with some specific technologies like IoT, blockchain, fall what we call the intelligent workflow framework that we are currently building with our clients.
So let's try and understand one of your clients itself. Amit, we've talked about the changes in workflow. Can you talk about how your workflow has been changed using AI?
So I would tell you it from this aspect. So artificial intelligence is something which, for that you need the data quality to be very, very sanitized itself, right? And being the largest bank itself, we have got our own set of data issues itself, which we have cleaned up more or less most of them. But what for the newer journeys, we have been using artificial intelligence, and I would touch upon 2 points itself to tell you about how the future is going to look like, right? So we are looking at 2 major things. We have done the retail part of it onto the right? We are looking at the treasury itself, the treasury operations, where we can have a end-to-end, blockchain can be implemented. That is something which is pending for a very long time, right? So treasury operations for people are not related to the banking itself. Is you deal with the LCs, etc., and you get all those things. Letter of credits are being done, and then people are trading on an online platform, right? So all these, if you are able to, and this is all about the forex money coming in, going out itself, right? There's a lot of paperwork over there. It has got a very huge opportunity to build in, and SBI a few years earlier, we have invested into a blockchain wherein we have formed a banks chain wherein HDFC, the banks have come together, ICICI, all 3-4 banks have formed a kind of so that a blockchain could be implemented in the country. It didn't work that time. I believe we were ahead of the time at that moment, right? But I believe now it's a very good opportune time to implement that kind of a thing. We are upgrading, or we are rewriting or enhancing, whatever you want to say. We are doing much more on the treasury operation. We are looking at it from that aspect, because that if you are able to give those operations very well and a stable environment to the traders itself, your commercial banking would improve a lot, right? Retail banking, we have done all the improvement what we have done on YONO itself, right? Having said that, what you would also look at, and I'm talking it from a futuristic perspective, which you would see coming in 2 quarters or 3 quarters going down the line itself, right? So artificial intelligence needs to build in onto something like what we are talking of, a reconciliation, right? So every transaction which gets logged in, if it fails for at whatever reason on a downstream system, then it can be reconciled in a very intelligent manner using a AI rules itself, if you have put it. Similarly, it has got a big application when it comes for finding out the frauds itself, right? Or finding out the potential NPS, right? And what I'm saying is this, all these AI applications, and we are not talking of AI from that aspect. And if I would start talking, we are talking it from a futuristic perspective, right? So where is the application of artificial intelligence, right? Varun, you are a good customer, right? Of SBI, you are sitting at home, but you have got money, you do not know how to invest. We are going to give you a virtual reality platform, right? We have got a joint venture which is called SBI Reality, right? Which have got a pre-approved builders and homes which are available. You use the virtual reality to check onto this, and based on the artificial intelligence and how I am going to pick up Varun itself. I'm going to pick up Varun on the basis of the artificial intelligence engines and the rule engines which are running, basis your spend habits, etc. And using that, you would be able to buy that home without even visiting it. Virtual reality give you that, and I'm sure we all have played all those virtual reality games. They are a fad currently nowadays, right? So, and that is the journey where the BFSI would move forward. This market is very stable. This is getting mature day and by day. And what we have thought, people may not have thought of asking such kind of services from a bank. They are taking hand by hand itself, right? So, so this is what Varun you would look forward to in artificial intelligence itself.
I think very subtly you talked about how futuristic the bank is becoming by saying that the most futuristic things are coming in 2 quarters. So,
Right.
would look forward to seeing such updates from SBI.
I can tell you, and we have launched, if you see one of those things, and this was ready, the watch which I am wearing, this is with, along with Titan itself, right? I believe in last 2-3 forums I've talked about it. This is a no touch payment instrument, right? So this is the first payment watch in the country, right, which we have launched along with Titan. You can buy it now. It's available on Yono platform. Yeah, you would find Titan as an option over there, and these are beautiful watches. They look very good on your hand, and they, so I'm not, and I'm wearing it since pre-pandemic days, right? It was ready, and because due to pandemic we were unable to complete a lot of those. We were keeping it in CUG. So I've done all my payments using this itself, right? So you can do a 2,000 rupees payment without even touching or taking out your debit card or handing your debit card to anybody.
That's excellent. I mean, you're looking at US for these kind of payments, but glad to know that we are already doing it in India as well. Ranjan, you talked about the man-machine interfaces, actually about how machines are complementing humans. So, how do you think can AI really work best alongside humans and make humans feel at home and not really a threat?
Yeah, so giving you a very, very interesting thought or an interesting journey that we took for our AI. We almost started an AI journey kind of 3 years back. And we again picked up the most complex area for AI. We said, again, identifying right products, identifying trends in fast fashion space, because that's the money. That's where you put your biggest money on, your inventory, on your product. And we said, how could we use AI to help us to identify the future trends, identify the future products, identify the future colors, patterns which are coming in different, and especially in women's brand, because men's brand, it's still slightly simpler. I would not say simple, but then it is simpler than a women's brands. And we have two very strong women's brands in Only and Vermoda. And getting trends, future trends for it, because the whole journey, the manufacturing life cycle itself is almost about 3 to 6 months. And since we are spread across the globe in terms of manufacturing basis, it was all the more difficult for us to one reduce the cycle and also to be more precise, because with our sustainability challenges that we already had as a global organization, we were being pushed very, very hard in terms of the leftovers, in terms of whatever was in terms of lower sell through. So we had to improve upon that, and fast fashion space is becoming a slightly cluttered space as well. So you also had to be ahead of time. So that's where we started our journey in terms of AI. And we've used very beautifully in one of the solutions. So also what we did about a couple of years back is we set up an innovation lab along with IBM. And we partnered with IBM Research Lab because they have the fashion research lab based out of Bangalore in India. And we partnered with them to create this. And then we created a solution where this product, this solution actually helps the designers with NLP, because let's understand the designer is the last person on earth to be going and fetching and using huge reports and data. So he would need a much simpler view of the data, though he needs the data, but he needs it more visually. And that is where AI has started helping him, bringing the visual data to him in a very, very simple language, using natural language processing, using the machine learning and the AI capability to be able to tell him uh, what could be the possible, and predicting what could be the possible sell through for a product that he would have just seen, a trend that he would have spotted. uh, Also help him to decide what are the future trends, to narrow down in terms of the number of designs that he would make. So every season, we have 2 seasons normally in India, spring, summer, and an autumn, winter. And every season, each of the brands makes almost about 1,000 to 1,100 options. Uh, how do you restrict and bring down those number of options that you make? Because to actually get 1,000, 1,100 options on the floor, you will make nothing less than about 10,000 to 12,000 odd options is what you create. And that much more challenge that you're creating in the overall ecosystem, given the timelines that you have in terms of sampling so many products, that much pollution you're creating. How could you reduce that? How could you bring down the number of options in terms of designing and be more precise so that the buyer spends lesser time and he is able to get the best of the designs to be able to choose from? So it's bringing them all together. AI is bringing not just the designer, but very early in the stage also bringing in the buyer, the sourcing people, even the sales folks at times, to collaborate and say how would the product look and would it really make sense to get into a product, make that kind of a product. And I think that's where AI is actually moving, because it has to start impacting your big and helping you take your biggest decisions, your most challenging decisions, because otherwise it will become futile. And the best part of it is it has to still stay subtle, because it just can't be there on your face. It again has to be it again has to be working very seamlessly into the process, so that it gives you bigger benefits and the adoption is much more easier and faster. Because reimagining a designer's life cycle, a buyer's life cycle, it is always very very important to bring in AI in a way which actually relooks at the whole process, and also uh, actually takes the process itself to a next level, rather than just implementing the process that they follow and putting AI into the workflows that they're working on in the existing flow. So it's all about bringing them all together, giving them enough visibility. One, in terms of decision making. Two, in terms of being able to predict what could work better for them and what is going to help them to do things better, and also bring in the collaboration angle much more well. In fact.
I hope you're so far not using the AI to actually do the design part itself.
And I would just
Not
chip in over here.
100%.
So
Yeah.
maybe
Yes.
Sanjay's job is very tough, because to agree to be agreed by a designer who are very creative people and provide them a solution working on AI and ML, then of trying to do a bank transaction with the plus and minus itself, right? So
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they are the guys who always want to be in Milan and try to spot new trends and fashion there, rather than getting them to sit in office and spotting that trend is far difficult actually. And bringing, so the best part was involving them in the journey very very early in the stage, because we said this is not a tech solution. This is a designer's life. This is what this is all about you. This is all about the way how you work. So creative guys, it becomes difficult actually to convince them for technology. They only like their Apple MacBooks, and that's what they love about.
Absolutely. Manoj, how are you trying to bring in efficiencies using AI?
Yeah, Varun. So, in the industry perspective, the life industry, life insurance industry, so there are lots of mundane tasks being done at the back office, and there are lots of people who are deployed to do those day-to-day tasks and month-end tasks or year-end tasks. So most of those mundane tasks is being converted to a automation automated way by using the AI and RPA, robotic process automation. So that is one aspect. And also I have seen in the cyber security industry, so since last few years, so if you look at that, everybody is using a security operation center. So like that is started with a implementing a SIEM solution, which is called security incident event management solution. So whether it is a small IT environment or bigger IT environment, in order to monitor the security logs of those systems, the SIEM has been used, and it has been also improved to a SOC by integrating lots of technology, and those technologies has been enabled with AI. So see, one is everybody has been taking lots of preventive action to prevent any cyber security incidents. But still still it's 100% security is a myth. Okay? So nobody can guarantee that we are 100% secure. So incident can happen at any time, and there are lots of zero-day vulnerabilities that are being being handed out in the areas. So if the incidents has happened, the next step is how quickly we can identify through our SOC processes, security operations center process. And once the incident is identified, how quickly we can give a response. So this incident detection and response processes has been automated using the AI. So if you enable the systems with a log monitoring solution, there are lots of logs is being generated. So suppose 2,000 best employee based organizations or 10,000 employee based organizations or 1 lakh employee based organizations like SBI. If you look at, there is a 4 lakh employee based organizations, and if a system is enabled with the log monitoring, it will create a gigabit of logs in seconds. So how to analyze those logs and create a alert which is useful for the IT teams, so that they can really work on those alerts. It is not, every minute it will get thousands of alerts, really no one will bother. And in between, some hacker will come in and do something, and will keep ignoring those alerts. So in this area, AI along with the data analytics platforms is giving a very useful platform to identify the incidents very quickly. And once these incidents are identified, the AI also is integrated with many security technologies to give a automated response, at least at the most basic way. So in this process also, AI has been improved a lot in integrating with the security operations center, which I must say that it's been doing a very good work.
Thanks for this. That was quite insightful. I mean, gigabytes of alerts being generated within seconds. That would practically be impossible to actually go through without an AI engine. Divya, that actually brings to an important aspect around cost that comes along with AI. So it's not that's very cost efficient in itself, but are there ways to actually convert that capex into opex to make it more affordable for different kind of organizations?
Yes, so a very interesting question, right, Varun? And this is something that we've been, grappling with very recently. So the answer is actually very different for every business, and it is based on their operating cost framework, right, that the client has. I think one thing that we should understand is that automation and AI are not just cost reduction tools, right? They should also be considered as growth tools. And with AI and automation dramatically increasing, the companies are able to grow into new markets, into new segments, new channels, and actually build new operating models. So primarily, it is possible to move from capex to opex, but it purely depends on the on the operating cost model that you want the organization to work on. And when we come to opex, you can always have many of these are enabled on hybrid cloud, right? So primarily using an as a service model to begin with, to test the waters, is something that you could do with your opex. But if you're looking at a very long-term investment, then I think investing complete solution as a capital investment actually helps.
Great, I think that's a good perspective to share. We're actually getting a lot of questions from the audience, but before we take those questions, we have a small presentation from an IBM partner. So we have with us Shrotri, who is the Vice President of Costa Cloud, and he would take us through a brief presentation on e-office. Sumit, over to you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Varun. Thank you for the introduction. We've been working with IBM Technologies to create solutions specifically geared for the government and PSU customers. Many of the technologies that Anthai had mentioned earlier in the presentation are the technologies that we are currently using to providing an e-office like solution to the government customers. Now, in the current environment of COVID, a lot of our customer base was worried about, how do we function going forward. People were afraid of touching files. The files were lying on a person's desk for 3 days before the person even touched the file. So the processes, even though the government was asking the officers to work faster, the workforce wasn't ready. We have been able to solve that problem for most of our customers that we are currently operating for. The solution that we built on top of the IBM technologies is called Gov Office. Is solving a couple of challenges that the government offices were facing. The government offices were initially facing lack of transparency. Files disappeared. Files were taking extra long to move. Approvals for some things used to lie around for years at a time without being traced. So if you are looking at from the traceability perspective, from the transparency perspective, digitization is being pushed by the government of India under the Digital India perspective. And following up on that, we've basically used the IBM technologies to increase efficiencies for our customers, increase auditability, actually reduce auditability from a user perspective, but from an overall company perspective, increase the auditability, right? Increase accountability on people. People cannot deny doing certain tasks. The tasks get audited and filed in the system automatically, right? And obviously, it's increasing the CSAT for the end customers of these government agencies that we are catering for. Most of the government agencies work with the Whitehall filing system. Now, this is a filing system that has been going on for years at a time. In one form or the other, all the government agencies have been working with this filing system. What this filing system entails is that there are two types of communications. One are called correspondences or docs. They are things like letters, notes, memos, all the other type of single communications that go from this government agency to any other. Then you have the file management systems. The file management is the complete file. So the approval files as well as the folder files, both are being managed within our system. So the green sheets and the correspondences, the flags, everything that comes with it has been automated within our system. Along with these two basic constructs of the e-office system, we also have some other modules that we provide, such as meeting management. Now, meeting management in our case begins from the time of inception of the meeting, setting of the agendas in the meeting. What are the agendas? Have the agendas been pre-approved by the people who are going to be coming in? Thereafter, capturing of the meeting of the minutes, and thereafter distribution of tasks. And that's where we come to the next module, which is the task management module. In a task management module, it's almost like, all the tasks that you are assigning to a person can be traced and tracked, right? Everything can become a task. A boss, a senior GM can give an AGM a certain task. A GM can give a GM of another department a task, and those tasks can be thereafter tracked and managed within the system. Then we also have things like the committee management, RTI, parliamentary questions, and knowledge management modules, which are basically complementary modules to the modules like the correspondence management and the file management modules. We have complete dashboardings that we provide. The application is role-based. So when a person is getting a task, he's getting it because he's sitting on that particular chair. Once he relinquishes the chair, he gets promoted, he gets transferred, he loses that access to those tasks that were allocated to that particular chair. And the next person filling in the chair will get that task. The dashboards provide a complete detailed overview of the entire department's filing. So what is happening in the department, how many files are coming in, how many are going out, what are pending with me, what are already overdue, what are the tasks that are allocated to me. All of that is provided using the dashboards. The committee management module, like I stated earlier, we are basically managing the complete flow of of things like a letter creation. If a service letter is being created within a department, that service letter is initially in the draft stage. It goes through an approval cycle. That approval cycle is part of our system. Thereafter, it gets signed, either digitally signed or electronically signed. That part is also part of our system. Once that is done, it gets distributed to the end entities. That distribution is also part of the system. And once you're in the recipient department, so if you're receiving a letter from another department, then what do you do with this letter is also part of the system. So we are covering the entire 360-degree life cycle of the docs as well as the files. Again, in the file management is the same thing. When you're creating the file, the draft file, the draft noting is part of the system. We also cater to some basic, needs of our customers, such as the ability to destroy draft notings, because many of the people don't want the draft notings to be permanentized in the file. So as long as a noting is in the draft stage, it can be destroyed and there'll be no trace of it. But once the noting has been approved and it has been sent to somebody, thereafter nobody can make any changes to it, and all the changes that were made to it are auditable in the backend. Things like part case file creation and branch memos and collation covers are also part of this system. Not just this, we are also providing things like native editor support. So many of our customers wanted to continue using Microsoft Word as the editor, and some of them wanted to use inline editors. So we have provided both the support for inline editors as well as the ability to using Microsoft Word with the system. The knowledge management obviously is catering to, it's a more generic solution. It is catering to the needs. Okay, it's like a cloud drive. I'm creating a cloud drive and I'm wanting to store certain data so that people within my department can share that information. So that is also part of our e-office system. The RTI and PQ queries, the difference really would between these two would be the timelines. The RTI comes with a 30-day timeline. The parliamentary question generally comes with a 48-hour timeline. So the entire process of getting an RTI through the door, the escalation matrices, the methods of how an RTI and a PQ are tracked, all of that is part of our system. So we retain an RTI register, we retain a PQ register, and if a certain task is not getting done in a certain amount of time as prescribed by the organization, it automatically starts getting escalated to the superior. Committee management. So the different types of committees that are formed within government organizations, like standing committees, which are more statutory requirements by the company secretariats of the department, and then you have these file level committees or temporary committees as they're called, which are called, for example, in a tender. In a tender situation, you formulate a committee of a temporary committee, and then that committee gets dissolved. So both kinds of committees, both the standing committee as well as the temporary committees, are inbuilt into our system. The meeting and task management module, like I mentioned earlier, so we have the entire functionality of calendar management with respect to the meetings, being the official meetings being called. The unofficial meetings should continue on the Outlook calendars or the Lotus calendars if you're using those. Our system is completely role-based. It is multilingual. We're currently supporting 8 Indian languages. Auto shadow copies of files are created, so there's no longer the need to photocopy a file to preserve it. Automatically, a shadow copy of the file which comes to you is created for every single file that comes to you. Like I mentioned, we have support for native editors like Microsoft Word and others, LibreOffice, Microsoft Word. So we are supporting those native editors. We are also supporting handwritten notes. So for our customer base who are above a certain age group and who are not as comfortable typing on a computer, we have also enabled the ability for them to write in their normal handwriting, and the system will automatically convert it into a machine typed language. And then we have support for things like digital and electronic signatures. Everything that you process will be retained in an outbox, just like in Outlook, right? Once you send an email, it gets retained in your sent box. Similarly, out here, everything that you've processed will be retained in your outbox, and you can always go back to it even a year from now and see what happened to a particular file or particular correspondence that you had sent to somebody else. Our system comes inbuilt with 6 MIS reports, which are more than sufficient for most of the customers that we've automated for. It has a self-help, so most of our customers can start using the application from day one without the need of even training. The system itself will guide the person on what the functionality is and how the functionality is to be used. There are notification features that can be enabled. So whenever you get an inbox item, you can get notified by either email or an SMS message. Self-management by the departments. So you don't need to rely on an IT person to change the name of a file, or or change the block numbers, or whatever that is required to maintain this e-office system. And obviously we integrate with the Active Directory, so you can use the same username password that you're familiar with. This is a report from one of our customers in the first quarter of this customer using our product. Within the first quarter itself, we were able to reduce around 90 lakh pages of prints that were happening within the customer. And this is a 1 quarter report. And this is the first quarter report after us launching the product. It took us 3 months for us to launch the product at this particular customer. And within the next 3 months, the statistics are there in front of you. Today, as we speak, the same customer is now 100% paperless. And under the COVID situations, this customer has become one of our most critical customers for us using paperless. We've now implemented the same government office solution in more than 7 or 8 places, catering to around 2 to 2.5 lakh end users in total. So it's a humongous amount of base that we are coming from, that we're catering to as of right now with our e-office solution.
Thanks, Amit. I think I'll ask the first question. So you presented the case very well, but just wanted to understand, can you name some customers who are actually using this kind of solution?
So I can name a few. I can name RECL, which is a Rural Electrification Corporation, Numaligarh Refineries. We can name the Indian Navy, and then there are many other customers which I won't be able to name as of right now, but I would be able to sing on a different forum.
We are actually getting some more questions from the audience. So the first question is about, would the audience member would like to understand from the practitioner's perspective on how to transition from piloting automation to actually taking it enterprise to enterprise-wide. So Ranjan, maybe you would like to take this from piloting this kind of project to actually taking it in production.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Varun. So I think the pilot is a very, very important aspect to understand the nuances, test waters in your organization, set right expectations. But then when you have to actually take it to a larger scale, and when you actually need to get into a rollout stage, it's important to align with the stakeholders' expectation. At times, the expectations set are way too high, and that actually leads to a lot of discomfort. So that's where managing the expectations, getting everyone in the same page, and then also setting the expectations of crawl, walk, and run. So this is something that I keep talking about, because any tech implementation always involves a crawl, walk, run. You just can't start running on day one. You have to set that expectation very, very right on day one itself, that you are going to start small and then grow big. Only then will it be a successful implementation. Otherwise, it's going to fail on day one itself, because the expectations will be way too high, thinking that this is going to change miracles, do miracles for them and change their life forever, which it is not going to do on day one for sure. So I think that's a very, very important aspect to keep in mind when you start the rollout.
Excellent. Anyone else who would like to add the perspective? Amit, maybe you would like to add something?
So, it's very rightly said, having the right expectation, because people think that technology can do wonders, right? It can take you from 0 to 100, and it's like a Ferrari, right, in 3 seconds. So as soon it has been given to IT, it would be implemented and results are available next day itself. Or we expected yesterday, but you are late because you are delivering it next day, right? So that's the way expectations are being done. But having said that, and certainly, but people have understood, and it's a learning curve to settle down the expectation at the management and the board level, that what benefits all these kind of journeys are going to bring in. And I believe if you would say, and we touched upon, I believe some of the speakers were talking about the cost aspect of it. Cost is no longer being looked upon, that whether it's an OPEX cost or the CAPEX cost, but it's being looked upon from an outcome basis. What's the benefit we are going to derive as an organization. What's a capability built in once we start using such kind of a solution? So these are the which is a paradigm shift which you would see in last couple of years, what we have seen, and going forward. And these are new technologies, right? So many people have got not very comfortable with respect to these technologies. It's settling down. Let me say it this way. Thank you.
Absolutely. And there's a related question about how do you really convince your management over an AI project? So Manoj actually had a number to share when he said, you can get gigabytes of logs within seconds. So that itself would be a good management case, right? Anything else you'd like to add, maybe?
Yeah, correct, Varun. So the things are, what we are doing earlier and what we are intend to do, integrating this AI and the automation technologies into the existing processes. And what we are going to achieve in the day one, like all our panelists has said, that we cannot achieve wonders on the day one, and it is a journey really. And what is the step one, what's the step two, and what's the step three? That need to be defined at the start of the project, so that the expectation will be set in the minds of the management and in the minds of the process owners and the business owners. And also the justifications that we need to give, that what is the manpower that is being spent on carrying out these mundane tasks or analyzing this gigabit of logs. And if there is an error, so it is obviously there could be, while analyzing gigabits of logs and also which is generating in a minute for a large organizations, or even megabytes of logs in a minute for a middle organizations, SME kind of thing. What are the efforts that is being done, and if there is an error, what can happen? So if you talk about from security operations perspective, what could be the security incident happen and where it can lead to? So like almost all the organizations, most of the things has been enabled on the internet, because to facilitate customer, to increase the customer's experience, and also increase the efficiency of the business processes. So if everything is enabled on the internet, everything is available on the web, so if there is a security incident, where it can lead to. So all those things also should be taken into consideration while convincing the management that there is a need for the investment into these technologies to bring the process efficiency.
Ansai, would you like to add some perspective on this? What would be your suggestions in terms of creating a business case for AI?
Well, in the IBM world, we do have a few signature methods, and usually at the start of it, you can always come to our automation practice, where we can give you a few days of what we call free discovery and ideation. And this will help you to frame your thoughts and see what are the underlying technologies and capabilities that you may want to take forward. And along that journey, if you are trying to do something that is a game changer, we do have a bit of a paid, what we call garage services, or free, what we call BVA analysis workshop, where we can help you maybe work out what are the dimensions of cost savings or business revenue potential increase, that you can kind of use it to socialize with your management. And then comes to the stage that you are wanting to show off a prototype that can really make sure that you are getting the business user acceptance. So what we do is that we will typically recommend that you go on to what we call a quick win pilot, where we will kind of create a paid for prototype within 16 weeks maximum, and get you something that you can test run, play with it, and make sure that this is exactly what you will want to see as your business outcome before you actually plunge into a full project on its own. So that is the kind of best practices and methodology that we typically encourage our customer or prospect to embark, and we are kind of doing this as a living for many years already. So we are happy to have people to come on board and try it out and see how we can help you carry out this journey from socializing all the way to execution.
With that, we've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, panelists, for sharing your interesting thoughts on this very relevant topic today. We were able to actually address a lot of questions from the audience, and we hope that everyone found it very useful. And with that, thank you so much for joining in, and stay safe.